My father was Cletus Chapman, and he was part of the instructors when World War II started. And I will tell you a funny story. You know, we have Alcoa aluminum in my county, and my dad was an Alcoa employee, and he didn't have to join because they needed the aluminum so bad. But Daddy said he'd rather go to war is work at Alcoa, so he joined up. And that's the kind of man he was. Daddy was about, he was 6'3", and they called him Slim, the men that worked with him. My mom was pregnant with my sister, so it would have been 42. He signed up in 42. He joined the Army. We were a military family. His one brother joined the Marines, and then he had one brother that joined the Navy, and he was only 17. And then on mother's side of the family, they were all Army. And then one of my mother's brothers lost his leg in the Pacific. And he was, I'm thinking Guadalcanal. I was just a child. He's been dead. He died in the 80s, but he always had problems after losing that leg. He laid in a foxhole for 3 days and developed gangrene. And so he was in bad shape by the time they found him. But my daddy, he got sick and would have been 79. He was only 57. He was at University of Kentucky Hospital, and he took 28 rounds of radiation treatment. And the doctors that treated him, at UK, and next door is the VA. And after the treatments, they didn't help Daddy at all. They didn't reduce the tumor. They told us that if it was radiation induced, that the radiation would not affect the tumor, which it didn't. He got no relief from it. But going through 28 radiation treatments back then in 79 was a real horrific thing to have to go through. My dad was a big, tall, strong man, and it really took its toll on him. He was on the ships, the first ships, and he talked about that a little, but he said that they were all scared to death because they didn't know what they were going to find. And of course, at that time, the atomic bomb, nobody knew what it did. But anyway, the very first ship's going over, and after he got there, they lived in tents for 6 months. And he was, the men were exposed to all the radiation. And the bombs had been dropped. This was post-war, when they were first going in after. My dad at that time I found out about it. There was a military atomic Veterans Association. And I wrote them, and I kept getting all their material. Now, I don't know if that is still in effect or not, but in 79 it was, 1979. I got all that material about that, and so we told the doctor, the VA doctor that treated my dad, he agreed. That's what was wrong. Daddy's was radiation induced. He had colon cancer, and they said it was one of the largest tumors they'd ever seen. But, and then after that, he had 28 treatments, radiation, and then a month off, and then they started chemo. I thought, and still think, we have Oak Ridge in Tennessee. That's where, the bomb was partly developed, was the atomic energy in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. But, we don't feel that way. We felt like it was necessary. And he did his duty, and he would have done it again had he had the choice. He was that kind of man, and our World War II soldiers were exceptional. I'm post-war. I was born in 46. After my dad came home in February, and I was born in December of 46. I've got pictures of him in Honolulu before they went to Japan. He was stationed in Honolulu. Oh, he loved Pearl Harbor. I mean, the bombing. Oh no, that was just. My husband's father served under Patton in Europe theater, and our dads never talked about the war. They never talked about it. And I had an uncle that was a Marine. He was a couple of years younger than my dad, and he served in World War II. And then when he came back, they called him up for Korea. So he fought in 2 world wars. But no, they never said anything. Men back then, the World War II vets, never talked about it. And tell you the truth, a lot of what I know about my dad's service, I heard from my grandmother. Apparently when he came back, he was more talkative, but as the years went by, he never talked about it. Never. They were the greatest generation. They were.
Why? What do you think?
Those men, the things they went without during World War II, and I know my mother was talking about over here all the rationing that we went through. They donated pots and pans to melt them down for the needed supplies they needed. Everything was rationed, gas was rationed, tires, everything, shoes, and what they went through, but nobody complained. Nobody complained.
You think that today's generation understands?
No, they do not. Now we do, because we were blessed to have them as fathers, but the younger generation, I think my husband is a Vietnam vet, and I think they understand, but no, I don't really think, unless something happens here, I don't think they'll ever understand. Well, you know, my dad was so young. We found out he had cancer at 57 in June. He was 57 in June of 79. And then he turned 58 in December, and then he died the following year. So there was no time to really, he went through so much, it was too late to share those memories. And my dad only had girls. I've got a sister, and if he had had a son, maybe he would have shared more. But those men protected us. They shielded us from bad stuff.
Where's your dad buried?
He's buried in Maryville, where we live, the family cemetery. Got the veterans plaque. My dad made sergeant in 3 months when he joined the Army. He was a judo instructor starting out, and then of course he went more active duty. But he was training the troops, and one thing I remember him saying was he could always tell the ones that were going to come back because they really worked at it. The ones that went in and just kind of goofed off and didn't take that training when they're seriously, he said he could almost bet they weren't coming back. Those men were exceptional. My dad was an exceptional man. No, I'm sorry. He's been dead all these years, and you never get over it. You never get over it. But I was blessed to have him. Now, he was proud. He was proud of the military. I have passed it to my children and grandchildren. I was only about 32 when my dad passed. Thank God I got to see. Think about all the soldiers did not get to see or meet their fathers. And same for Vietnam vets. There's some didn't come home. And I'm thankful my dad did. We love the service. We love the military. We just want it to go back to the way it was. We want it powerful. A powerful military. and he's got to go back to that.